pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we're starting with a makerspace presentation at the GLP by Mrs. Carter.
Good evening. How are you today?
Great.
We are so excited about this. So I'm going to introduce you to Mrs. Wes Rischel, who is our makerspace instructional leader at GLP in just a moment, and she is going to give you a sneak peek, and I'm going to say a sneak peek because you should have gotten your invitation to attend our grand opening tomorrow at 6:30 at the GLP for our grand opening of our makerspace, but you're going to get a little sneak peek tonight of our makerspace and all the exciting work the team has done under the great guidance of Mrs. Wes Rischel. So she loves to speak at these things. So be kind to her. She's super excited, and there's just been great energy, and we are so excited if you can all come tomorrow to see. It's been a transformation of the hallway that everybody thinks is vacant at GLP and is completely full. So we're excited to have our grand opening. So Mrs. Wes Rischel.
I need to sneak in for 2 seconds.
You don't want your face up there?
No, I don't.
We're just exploding with excitement if you can't tell. It's very, very cool.
And then can I put it in present?
Yeah. Right to your purse.
You're not gonna leave me, right?
You see how it is? Look at, there you go.
Okay.
That's the thing I'll see.
Nah, I'm good. Hi, I am Sandy Wes Rischel, and I am used to talking to 7-year-olds. So, get a little nervous with grown-ups.
Yeah, really, no different at all. We're good.
So this has been in the planning stage and in the making for about a year. We started doing all of this, and I want to say thank you to Laura Feldman, because without the funds to create some of this, it wouldn't have come to fruition. I also want to thank the Makerspace team. So Jamie O'Brien and Ashley Mason and Jill Rapp and Sarah Fiorella. Some people couldn't make it tonight, and they'll be there tomorrow night. Sarah Fiorella, Katie Mathis, Beth Levikoff, and Jacqueline Bonfante. We've been working on the space for a while. And even in some of the videos you'll see, it looks way better. There was a mad rush in the end to get the final things in. So it started out with ordering supplies and transforming the room. In January, we had our activities and we were ready to start. So we started with an assembly with the whole school to kind of rev the kids up with what a makerspace is. And usually when I talk to my friends or anyone about, oh, we're starting this makerspace at school, the first question is, I don't get it, what's a makerspace? So at the assembly, I tried to show the kids and talk to them and show them a little about what it is. So this is just a quick video, hopefully. Oh, what's happening? I guess I need to hear the music. I forgot to set it. Voices. Okay, so that explains it a little bit. What am I doing? Okay. So a makerspace is based on STEAM, which is science and technology and engineering and art and math. What the children are doing, though, is really communicating. It gives them opportunities to challenge themselves, to work in teams or alone. They work on their analytical reasoning, their problem solving, their perseverance, and it's hands-on. There is no directive of exactly what to do. They have to solve problems and figure things out and probably not get it right the first time so that they have to try again. There's different stations in our makerspace. So here's the vision statement. I should probably look ahead of my slides. The GLP Makerspace vision statement is, the GLP Makerspace will provide opportunities for the next generation of thinkers to collaboratively explore, create, and problem solve through meaningful play. So when you talk to the students, that's what they think they're doing. They think they're playing, they think it's fun, but they're also learning, and they're learning skills they'll need for a lifetime, not just how to do math or how to do science. It's all incorporated together. So one of the things that we talked about is what are the expectations in there, and they all promised, I'm not going to read them to you, but they all promised to do all these things, and the final one is basically have fun. So one of the stations is an engineering station, and these are just pictures in there. I didn't really want to show the whole thing because I really would like everyone to come to the grand opening tomorrow and see it for yourself. We are going to have some students there playing with the activities so you can see what it would be like in school. The engineering activity, so this is why we need a team, because we're designing activities that will be flipped over every 4 to 6 weeks. So there is an engineering station, but the activities will change every 4 to 6 weeks, and we're trying to work on a 3-year cycle because the kids at GLP are, besides the pre-K, they're K1, 2, and then they won't have the same activities more than once. So the engineering station right now is to design a snow fort, and they have to be able to fit 2 Lego people inside their snow fort and have a door that could move and open. So they've been having a lot of fun figuring that out. These are some engineers at work. They're planning and building, and we have this whiteboard table that some of the people on the committee actually made. It used to be a wooden table, and we put whiteboard paint on it, and it's called the drawing board. Thanks. Thanks, Lauren. We also have a peg place, which we do give them some ideas if they're at a loss of what to do, but they also can then go on their own. So we had a snow theme, so there's lots of snow pictures up here that they can make. This is like a giant light bright. Those are golf tees. We have Magnetiles at the station, and they can design 3D structures with the Magnetiles. And then this is one of the students doing the marble run. So they do have pictures that they could follow to design this marble run. They have to get the marble from the top to the bottom without falling out. They could use the pictures if they want to try to design it that way, or they could do their own design. So this was a student doing that. It's really neat to listen to them talk to each other and decide what to do. They take it very seriously. They did make that work in the end. The math and science station right now is a sledding ramp. So their objective is to have these penguins. They're given tape and a measuring tape and cardstock, and they have to have a platform somehow and design a ramp where the penguin can slide down the ramp and make it as tall as they can and measure it in the end. I really like this one because they thought outside the box. Most of the kids just built a Lego foundation, and they use this chair to do it. And then this was Penny figuring out how to do her ramp. And she would talk to some of the other kids in her group, and she measured, and it wasn't working. I love the fact that the kids, they don't seem to get that upset when it doesn't work out. They're just like, oh, and then they do it again. Because it is hard for kids a lot of kids want to be right the first time. It's a hard thing to realize that's not how life works. Yep, grit. So there we go, she changed it up, and then she figured it out, and then she measured it. There's a technology and coding station, so this is actually a coding game where they would roll the dice and then they pick up cards that have arrows, and they have to figure out how to move their mouse around the board using the arrows that they pick to get cheese, and then there's roadblocks along the way. It's the beginning of coding, but working with a team collaboratively. And we also have a virtual reality station, a VR station. The kids love this. I actually don't understand it that well, but it doesn't matter because the kids sit there and they figure it out with their pens and put their glasses on, and I'm like, I don't know, figure it out, and they do. They figure it out, and what is neat about it is they sit there and everything is 3D right in front of them, so they can dissect animals, like not as gory as you're thinking, but it's just neat. Do you guys understand it?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I know.
See?
There's like
Yeah.
a pizza one that the kids can build their own pizza and they can roll their own dough and and it's all 3D, so they feel like they're
It feels
doing
like it, right,
but
yeah.
Like they put on their glasses on stuff, it's pretty cool. And then there's another one that's a marble one that almost like a marble run, but it's 3D, so they all love that one.
What's so exciting to me about that is that I was told that the little kids at GLP were too young for the Z
Oh,
spaces.
they know more than we
Oh,
do.
no.
I
They know
know.
more than we do
That's
about
why I
that.
wanted them in
Yeah.
your building,
And then
because
they
I knew
show
that
each
wasn't
other.
true.
That's the other part, is they show each other. They're like, oh, yeah, I did this last week, and, they know how to do it. And then we have an art and music station, so our theme this month until March is snow. So there's a poem up, and they're designing snowflakes, and we have some hanging up at the GLP that they made. There's a green screen, so these are some pictures that we took today, Ashley took today of some people you might know with a green screen background. We were playing around with it because tomorrow night we would like people to be able to get some pictures from us with the green screen and pretend they're at the beach. So these are a couple of my students. They're actually triplets, but one of the triplets isn't sitting there, explaining what they liked about the makerspace.
My favorite part is when I built this giant Lego fort that was tall, but I wrecked it before anyone could take a video of it or measure it. So it's pretty sad.
I don't know if you can hear it.
Okay. So I was doing the marble thing, and it was fun, but it was kind of challenging because, like, we never got it the first. Me and Seth never got it the first time. So we keep on trying. Sometimes we did it about 10 times until we got it right.
Yep, they don't give up. And then this is Kara sharing what she thought about the makerspace.
So the makerspace is about not doing boring stuff like doing 2 plus 2. That's too easy. You have to challenge your mind. You have to do art, music, science, math, technology, and coding. I did coding yesterday. Yeah. And see, makerspace is all fun stuff. You have to challenge your mind, make it grow bigger.
I don't know if you got that, but she said you have to challenge your mind and make it grow bigger, and there's no saying can't. She says it better than I do. So Mr. Duff actually just finished this YouTube video for us. When we had our assembly to explain to the kids what the makerspace was, we wanted to get them excited, so we sent them all back to their classrooms with activities to do. And the pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade, they made snowflakes based on why is snow white. And, was it back, Phoebe? So why is snow white? And they learned that science behind it, and then they made their snowflakes. And then the second grade made different projects, and we had kids pick a room they wanted to go in our wing and make the projects, and those projects will be on display tomorrow night at the Makerspace grand opening, and this is the YouTube video. It's awesome. Oh. Why isn't it getting bigger? Finally, the Makerspace is open. But what even is a Makerspace? You gotta watch it small. It looks better now too. There's more stuff up.
The Makerspace is a place to have fun and to learn at the same time. Anybody else have success? What about you? The Makerspace is about having fun, challenging yourself, like trying to make a house and fitting two little people in the house. So we're gonna do a polar bear stand, make it around the polar bear, somehow make the polar bear get inside, and build a wall, so then he can sleep during, and I can eat this. If you want to be a scientist when you grow up and you need to know how to be one, the Makerspace is the place to go. Makerspace, I learned how to do challenging things and if they didn't work, you try them again.
They wrote those statements themselves. They
Well,
just
you can
wanted to
always
read them.
improve it, right?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do right now, and I don't think it's working. At the top, so they can't get out. And then at the bottom we have this like pipe cleaner we tape to the bottom so that they can come up it. Since you came over here, why are we putting things on the side? To make more weight. Now that side has too much weight. A Makerspace is to challenge kids' minds, like a hard thing that they've never done before.
Oh, nice job.
So it is up and fully functioning, and there's a Google sign up where teachers can just sign up in the empty spaces and go as often as they want. I'm pretty sure everybody has gone by now and gone a couple of times at least down
Sandy,
there.
can you just speak for a minute about what you're doing with the hallway floor too? Because that's going to be after the open house tomorrow night.
I'm going to let Lauren talk about that part because I only know, I don't know as much about that.
But Sandy, before you go though, that's what I wanted to know, like, how often are teachers using this? Like once a week or?
Most of them are using it once a week, and there's half-hour slots. A lot of people are signing up for 2 half-hour slots. See, if I had had something like this when I was younger, I would be better at public speaking. When they're in there, they stick to one station. So sometimes they need more time than even a half hour at that station.
I would think,
So it's
yeah.
not like wandering around to all the different places while they're there. So in order for the kids to get the full experience of all the places, and there's more than those 4 stations, there's side things to do as well that are permanently there. So like the peg place and the Lego wall and all of that. So
Do you foresee using it to extend maybe something going on in your science lesson or whatever, that
Yes.
you would see. So
and-
not just these stations, but you could be using it for other things that come up throughout the year.
So when we started planning and ordering, we looked at the science curriculum and the math curriculum and tried to order things that would flow with that, because as a classroom teacher, and you know, Ellen, there's not a lot of time, you're trying to get
Right.
everything in. So this is supposed to enhance that and help with that and not be one more thing that they need to do. So the science activity should be helping us work through the curriculum and reach some of those standards.
No,
that
I think
we-
that sounds wonderful. It sounds
Yeah.
really exciting.
It's very exciting, it's really
Yeah.
fun. I am excited about tomorrow night and having the kids there. The feedback from them in the hallway is fun. They're very happy to go.
Well,
But
good job.
the Kaboom Room, which it's not called because I keep
I
forgetting the
know we
name.
keep going, but
Yeah.
they've done a great job of tying that into that. So you heard Sandy talk about the fact that.
Oh, okay, so back up for just a minute, because I'm thinking the hallway has to do with the makerspace.
We're talking
Kind
the
of a
walls.
tie, so.
Right, okay.
Right, so Sandy's done an awesome job kind of inviting the kids. So the walls have been painted that invite the kids to the makerspace, and it talks a lot about what are those key words that you talk about when you think about creating, and they say things like create,
Explore, collaborate, and then we put exercise words up there too to tie in both
Right.
rooms because they're across the hall from each other. And Lynn Morgan has painted This Way to the Makerspace, and it's going to say
fit kids in action.
Fit Kids in Action Room.
So that's the tie. So
Oh,
when you hear Sandy talk about the fact that as much as this is great fun for kids and it's building grit, it really is about how do we tie it into the curriculum and how are we building those skills for kids to get them for the real world, because we are sending them out to a different world and they need to think like this. So as much as it's fun for them, it's a purpose. It's how do we create an educational environment that is providing them the skills they need to move on. Well, the other piece of that is the room across from this is how do we help children in an environment where they need to learn and be healthy, and what we know is research says if they're active more often during the day, they learn better. So you know that we have that Kaboom grant that we received, and the other piece of this is our room is called Fit Kids in Action, and the floor is the next part of our project, which is a sensory floor that has these permanent stickers that are going to be put on the floor, which is right outside of the makerspace. And it has things like, for us older people, we would call it hopscotch and things like that, but it has letters, numbers, logs, and different things for them to build their fine motor and gross motor skills that are going to be permanently on the floor in the hall, which is great because it's right outside pre-K. And Mrs. Cudahy helped us design the floor as part of that team. And kids can go down there at any time and do that for their more sensory, fine motor, gross motor skills. And then the room that's connected across is going to be the Fit Kids in Action, which is more of an indoor playground. It's going to have a climbing structure. It's going to have a traverse wall. It's going to have some soft play things. So when our kids can't get out 6-7 months out of the year, but they still need to get that movement and build those other types of skills, they'll have that room to go to. And we've had a lot of conversations about if you want to have a way where you can maybe take, as opposed to your whole class into the makerspace, maybe you split them and you have half and half. That's one option. If you want to do recess with your whole class, you can do that, or in makerspace. And it's really going to be a teacher's choice how they model and use both those rooms. So, and it really is just, it's a different type of educational setting so that we're a current school and we have something different to offer than any other school.
The ages is like, what, 4 to 7, 4 to 8, around
In
there?
that room?
That utilize the makerspace,
4 to 8.
4 to 8?
And to that,
Some
end,
nine.
can I just say really quick, we brought down a few of the kids. I'm an aide in a special, in the self-contained classroom, and we brought a few of the kids down today because there was talk that, is this going to benefit, is it too high level? And we brought 3 of them down there today, and one of them, who's not a very chatty guy, kept coming up to all the adults and saying, the makerspace is good, the makerspace is good. So that made me feel really good, and that they can utilize that too. It's not just for kids that they.
It's really a great
High-end.
place.
It's for everybody.
And the green screen, I mean, it's not just a green screen for taking, I just showed pictures, but when kids are presenting, so my kids made snowman traps, and they presented in front of the green screen, and my goal is to have like a snow scene behind there. So in the video, it looks like they're actually outside trying to catch the snowman. It just adds to the real world. I mean,
Yeah.
technology is part of the real world now.
Well, I know, like, when I was, if I can remember back that far, between the age of 4 and 8, I didn't even know what collaboratively meant. It's just something our parents, you play well with your friend, or, get along and stuff like that. I mean, it makes me want to go back and be in a grade school. I'm excited about tomorrow night.
So let's go back to 2013, right? Lauren and I talk about this often, where the challenge when I came was to close GLP and move them to the elementary school. And instead, we've created a space at GLP that is not like anything near us. And then the second challenge when we started the capital project was to close that wing. And what you guys have created with that wing is incredibly unique. And so we turned a challenge into what do we have that no other school around us has, and you've done that. And it's nice to see your colleagues here too.
Thank you. Yes, I couldn't have done it without Lauren's help either. I forgot to thank her in the beginning.
They are
So-
amazing. Their excitement is contagious, so they really have worked really hard and quickly.
Well, good job. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know how to. Turn it off.
Do we have another presenter? Do we have the other presenter?
We just see a picture right now.
I know, I'm waiting, who's coming up next? Okay, thanks, yeah.
Oh,
You're just speaking, correct?
So he's just
Great.
going to speak.
Then I'm going to put the agenda back up,
Okay.
okay?
oh, okay. Oh, okay.
That's a tricky conversation to follow. That was so exciting, and I got to be on the best topic ever, talk about insurance, huh? This is going to be fun.
I told you it was going to be a tough act to follow.
It is. I wish I was first. No, actually, as a parent of some very small children, that makerspace looks phenomenal. I have kids right in that range, and that's awesome. So that's great to see. I'm Joe Hamway. I work for Smola Consulting. The district has hired us the past 2 years to be your healthcare consultant, specifically navigating through the challenging world of healthcare, your benefits, your insurance, the employer benefits you offer your staff. And, our goal over the past 6 months or so was to test the market, which essentially means to make sure that your current benefits are appropriately rated with the right carrier. So I'm going to give you a little walkthrough on how we got to where we are today. And I want to take you back to last year. I'm going to take you back to March last year, okay, about 11 months ago. The Department of Financial Services, which oversees, New York State insurance, so they oversee Blue Cross Blue Shield as well as all other insurance carriers in New York State and federally. The Department of Financial Services came down and said there's a lot more strict rules than ever before, and one of those strict rules was that you can no longer offer insurance rates beyond 12 months. And we're all used to a yearly 12-month rate. That's what we live in. But prior to last year, insurance carriers could have offered you a 24-month or a 36-month rate cap. This was very advantageous for everyone in this room because if your claims, we'll talk about that in a bit, went very high and your rates demanded higher numbers, you were capped by this 24 or 36-month rate cap. It was very advantageous for everyone. But the Department of Financial Services took that away and they said, insurance carriers, you can only offer a 12-month rate and that is it. And this was tricky for everyone to hear, myself as a broker consultant, as well as Eden as an employer, because now you are essentially living with a 12-month rate with no protection on the end. It was even trickier because back in 1819 and 1920, you happened to have lived in that multiple year protection and benefited from it. In the in the fiscal year 1920, Blue Cross Blue Shield came out and said, your rates demanded a 21.5% increase, but we promised you it wouldn't go above 12, and we're going to honor that, and they did. But after that, that no longer is able to happen anymore. So you guys lived it, you benefited from it, but nobody, including yourself, can benefit from it again. So that was sort of the first eye-opening moment where myself as a consultant, met with the leadership on the Labor Management Oversight Committee meeting, and multiple times we'll talk about to say, hey guys, this is what's happening in the landscape. How can we react to it, and what does it mean for you guys as an entity moving forward? The other news that came out last year, this one came out in July, is that the Department of Financial Services said to all insurance carriers, Blue Cross Blue Shield included, hey, if you were to ever bid on a company, an entity that you don't have, you can no longer offer them a really advantageous low rate in year one and buy their business and then try to make up those profits in increments for years and years and years to come. In other words, they couldn't offer you an artificially low rate in year one in hopes that they would keep your business for many years to come and then make up those losses in future years. So they basically said, give them the right rate on day one, and that right rate needs to be 12 months and no longer than that. So those are two big changes. So back in October 3rd, 2019, I was at a Labor Management Oversight Committee meeting, and we had a discussion back on October 3rd with that committee to say, hey, here's what's happening in the landscape. Do you guys want to take this opportunity to go to market, which means do you want to go to Univera, do you want to go to Independent Health and ask them for rates for the 2021 period? And if you do, I'll lead you through that process, and who knows what's going to shake out, but I will tell you that we can't keep going to them every year and asking for rates. So if they are advantageous, we need to give true consideration to those rates and benefits to make sure if it's the right fit. And so we didn't decide at that meeting. We did reconvene 15 days later on October 18th, 2019, where ultimately was agreed upon by that committee, the Labor Management Oversight Committee, that yes, they would allow myself to go to Univera, to go to Blue Cross Blue Shield, your incumbent, your current carrier, to go to Independent Health, and to ask them to quote your current benefits as they are today, or enhance the benefits if they can't keep the same benefit level. We were giving them the ability to see your benefits. We were giving those carriers the ability to see your claims, not on an individual level. Okay, so no one's individual claims was ever shared, but at an aggregate level they were. We were giving them what's called a census, a demographic analysis. So they got age, gender, zip code. They got what plan you're in. Okay, not on an individual member's name level, but de-identified. So they got that. And they also got what's called a provider network report, which means every single claim that was processed over a 12-month period, the carriers got to see, because we wanted them to know what providers you're using. Because there's 4 parts that you need to think about to consider changing for Blue Cross Blue Shield. You need to consider about the benefits, and again I said to match or enhance the benefits. You need to consider the rates, of course. You want to make sure the rates are competitive. But you also want to consider the network. Okay, that's why you ask these carriers to look at every single claim, de-identified, every single claim, every single pharmacy, every single provider, every single hospital, every single entity that you as a population went to over 12 months to show them this is where you guys are utilizing services. How does your network compare? So you got rates we compared, benefits we compared, network we compared, and then of course you want to compare services. Are these carriers, Univera, Independent Health, Blue Cross, going to service you well? And I'll talk about how we figured that out in a little bit. So I took the better part of October and all of November to work with the carriers, Independent Health, Blue Cross Blue Shield, who's your incumbent, as well as Univera, working with them so they understood your benefits, they understood your claims. We gave them very specific directions on what we wanted quoted. But the one thing we didn't give them was your rates. We did not give them your historic rates. We didn't give them your current rates, and we didn't give them your future rates. And that was purposeful, because the goal out of this was to go to the carriers and say, given everything I've given you, go back to your underwriters, go back to your claim processing department, go back to your marketing department, come up with the best rate that you are comfortable with, knowing that we don't want to be bought in year one. You're not allowed to buy us in year one. know that you can't give us a multiple year rate. You're not allowed to. Give us a fair rate and give us your best and final rates on day one. We're not going to go back and forth and nickel and dime and say he beat you, you beat her, lower this, lower that. What I think was the most impressive part of the process was when you tell people, here's all the information, it's a lot about price, but I'm not giving you the price. It makes them really sit down and think, well, what are we going to do to quote this entity's business, and how can we really come up with the right rates for this business? And it has to be the right rates. They don't know anyone else's rates, so they have to live and believe in their own rates. On December 18th, 2019, we met with the Audit Finance Committee to discuss those RFP results. And I know a lot of those folks are here today on the committee, and please chime in. I know a lot of you were here to hear the results when they were first revealed in that type of form on December 18th, 2019. At that time, the results, financially speaking, look like this. Blue Cross Blue Shield came through and said, we recognize that you are gone out to bid. We might lose your business. We don't know how other players are shaking out. We're worried about losing you. We don't want to lose you. We've been with you for decades. That's a true statement. They've been with you for a lot of decades. We can renew your business at a 3.5%, $134,000 increase. A 3.5% increase is phenomenal. I'm telling you that it's phenomenal because I personally don't believe that your claims merited it. I think that's a very aggressive number and potentially speaking, a budgetable number. But there's two more sides to the story. Independent Health came through and said, hey, we can administer your claims for 2021 at a 2.5% increase over what the Blues can do. Now, they don't know what the Blues can do for rates, so I'm putting the numbers together for you. Which is ultimately 5.8% lower, a $228,000 difference lower than what the Blues can do. So you now have Independent Health coming through and saying we can save you $228,000. Same benefits or enhanced benefits. Great network. Univera came through and said, compared to the 2021 rates that Blue Cross Blue Shield put out, we can save you 12.6%, which was $493,000. So you have Univera, who's going to save, and when I say save, this is a combination of district and employer dollars, okay? I know it's split in some manner, but I'm speaking globally and the whole dollar amount. So over the 2021 period, you have Independent Health saying we can save you $228,000, Univera saying we can save you $493,000, and the Blues saying we'll increase you $134,000. So we discussed those results on December 18th with the Audit Finance Committee meeting. We then reconvened with that same committee on January 1st of 2020, about a month ago, and we reconvened to rediscuss the results and took the prior 2 weeks to come up with any more questions, and we talked about it again. We talked about different ways of interpreting the numbers. We talked about steps to move forward, and one of the things I really recommended was that you guys are a multiple million-dollar account, and you're potentially looking to partner with either your current carrier or a new carrier for many years. So now you become a tens and tens of million dollars account over a long period of time. I encourage you to sit down with these carriers, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Independent Health, and Univera. Give them 75 minutes each of your time. Put eyeballs on these folks. Ask them the tough questions. Ask them how they can live with the rates. How do they come up with the rates? How can an environment which is such a tight-knit environment have 3 carriers having rates which are quite spread out? How does your network compare? What would a change look like if we entertained moving to you? Are you sure you quoted the right benefits? Is there anything we're missing? Talk to me about your rating formula. Each carrier has to submit a rate filing, their formula, their math behind how they spit out their rates with the Department of Financial Services. So if everyone's submitting these very detailed mathematical formulas, which in a sense has all the same components, how can the rates be so varied when I sat here and told you that the 2 things they couldn't do was buy your business and extend your rates for longer than 12 months? So I applaud the folks for agreeing to that, and we met on January 6th. We met on January 9th for 75 minutes each with Independent Health, Univera, and Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we asked them those exact questions. We sat them down and we asked them those really tough questions. And what we learned from that was that everyone's rates were right. You say, well, how is that possible? How can you tell me, with the same population of people, for the same claims, at the same district, at the same time, for the same benefits, how can you tell me the rates are right? And that is because what was spitting out the rates, the formula they used was quite different. The formula they used, filed with the Department of Financial Services, was quite different. They all considered your demographics, your age, your gender, zip code. But how they weighted it was different. They all considered your claims, but how they blended it with claims from their other pool of business was quite different. They all took in consideration your high-cost claimants, but how they capped those high-cost claimants and excluded claims over a certain amount was quite different. So in other words, the factors going into the formula differed quite a lot, so of course the result that was spit out was different. So after that meeting, we then reconvened with the Labor Management Oversight Committee meeting on January 16th. And that was the first time that committee, the Labor Management Oversight Committee meeting, got to hear not only about the results of the proposal in very fine detail. We went over networks, we went over claims, we went over benefits, we went over financials, but they got to hear about the results from the week prior's face-to-face meetings with the carriers. And it was at that meeting, and Sandy, I don't want to put words in your mouth, where we first heard, your comments about ultimately your recommendation on how you felt after hearing everything, crunching every number, how you felt things should move. Did you want to speak now or about that component?
Yeah, so I think when we back up to that particular period of time, what it is that I mentioned, and this is for the board, is that if we went out to bid, that I would make the ultimate decision for the district as to what direction we would go. I really appreciated Joe's help in consulting along the way, because I really felt as if there was a little left unsaid, very few rocks not turned over, and that we were going in with our eyes pretty much wide open about where we needed to go.
So,
could I just say one thing? I think that...
Sure.
Use your mic.
Which is, what, push it down?
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
That one.
This one? Oh, this one right here, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We
Well, you have to
discussed-
hold, you have to hold it.
I have to hold it. We discussed at that meeting that's very important, is that the networks were very similar, that most of the people would still be able to keep their physician, the hospitals, et cetera, which I found, and I think the other board members found, was very significant, because there would be no major loss in people not being able to see their physicians that they've seen, the hospitals, everything else. I believe that's an accurate statement in what we consider. You agree?
Yeah, so, and really quickly to go over that, and thank you, Alan, that's actually a great comment. So if you look at every claim that was processed in the 18-19 period, the hundreds and hundreds of claims, Blue Cross Blue Shield processed 98.8% of those claims in network. You guys are doing the right thing and using your claims in network. That's where you get the best discounts and where your out-of-pocket cost is the lowest. Univera superimposed those exact claims at those providers into their network, and they said, if you don't change, if you use the same doctors, if you don't want to change, that's fine. Our in-network percentage is 96.9%. So you're going to go from 98.8 to 96.9, so there's about 2% difference. Now those 2% could call their doctor and say, are you in network, hear the word no, and say, okay, I'm going to consider changing to someone who is in a different Univera's network. Or they can stay with that doctor and pay out-of-network benefits, because there are out-of-network benefits to that. But you're correct, there's a 2% differential, and in the world of consulting, in networks, which are never going to be the same, a 2% differential is not a significant differential. I mean, it's 2 out of every 100 claims are potentially going to be no longer in network. And so you'll still have coverage, you'll still have a benefit, and you'll still have an option of changing providers, but those 2% will be out of network.
But if I still go to those 2% of doctors, I still can get coverage through my health insurance as an out-of-network?
Correct, yes.
So what the board will be voting on later today are those rates that we have been presented by Univera that Smollett Consulting has worked us through. So that is later on in your agenda, under your MOAs. And there's also a contract that we will sign once we have approval from you. We will also, with your approval later on in this meeting, have a staff development day on March 2nd, in which case Univera has promised to come out and present to every single staff member that we have in this district, everything that we believe would be helpful for them when open enrollment comes in April, of understanding who Univera is, what they can offer, how to get their questions answered, and just getting face-to-face. I believe that we have learned through this entire process is there's so many benefits within health insurance that the average person doesn't even know about and doesn't use. And we want to make sure that we do that too.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, is there anything we've left out, you think, Joe?
Well, the one thing I think I will say is that, Blue Cross doesn't want to lose your business. That's clear and that's evident. They partner with you guys for decades, and right or wrong, rate-wise or whatnot. I just want to say, I think they serviced you phenomenally over many years. We have a great service rep. 2 days ago, she called me and said, hey, look, will you accept lower rates? I know it's well outside the parameters of the proposal process, but I want you to know I need to do everything I could to not lose your business. And so, she came back and knocked $134,000 off the rates. And so, the numbers I mentioned in theory could be shrunk by $134,000. There's still over $350,000 of savings with Univera. Having said that, I bring that up to you for two reasons. One, just to say it because I think it merits their interest in keeping your business. But two, the reason she did that is because she said your claims are trending better than she thought, and the rates that she put out do merit lower rates, which in my mind also support Univera's as well as independent health's rates being lower. Now, they didn't have the privilege of seeing 2 to 3 more months of claims that the Blues did to lower those rates, but they're all in the right direction, which is great for everybody here. Whatever you decide is great news. I've always just joked to say the best thing you can do selfishly is do nothing and keep the Blues because it'd be so much easier for me, but I'm not on your plan and it's not my money, I'm not a taxpayer. So you need to do what's right for everybody. But I just want to say I applaud the efforts of everyone, the committee meetings. I think I just listed 7 different meetings that went for hours and hours to allow the carriers to come in, to speak for 75 minutes, to allow the incumbent, the Blues, to come in and to be honest, very challenged in that meeting. And they responded well. I applaud you because if this shook out without those meetings and it just was signed off with a change, I wouldn't feel right. So thank you for letting me guide you through whatever you decide. I appreciate it.
Just, you sort of moved it over. The savings is quite significant, correct?
If you were to, correct, it's either somewhere between $490,000 and $364,000, depending on if you allow the Blues that last-ditch effort to keep your business. It's
yeah, I thought that if we go with Univera, the savings are over $400,000, correct?
At the time that everything I wrote and printed and discussed, it was $492,000.
Right, which would be significant savings.
Absolutely.
Press the button.
That would be, yes, significant savings to taxpayers, yes.
Yeah, without any damaging in coverage, really. Yeah, without any damaging in coverage, it's a significant savings.
Yeah, there are either identical benefits or enhancements to your benefits with Univera.
Yeah, and I think everybody is conscientious about wanting to keep the tax rate as low as possible.
Correct.
I want to thank you. I want to thank the Labor Management Organization, too. It was a long haul.
Yeah.
Yep, very good.
It. Thank you.
Drive safely, Joe Hamway.
That was good.
I want to just say that you did a great job. You came all the time for us, and it was a pleasure working with you.
Budget presentations, middle school, high school, GLP, elementary school curriculum. Who's going first?
We really had an order set up that the middle school and high school went first because that's the order that their papers are for the board members, so they could keep on top.
We can figure it out, probably, can't we? We can.
You guys gonna share a mic?
Guys, we'll figure it.
Do you have your own papers? Or do you want I can look, supplies high school.
But this is middle school, this is,
Just the supplies one. Yeah.
The
figure it out. Here's
GLPs
GLP.
has an 04 when you get to the ninth place where it says
we got
dash
it.
O.
we can do this. We're good.
Elementary is 02.
Here's grade 3, 4, 5, that's Kelly's. We got it.
The slides are in the order, the handout that Lauren just gave.
We're fine.
The GLPs was printed 1/30/2020 at 10:48 a.m.
We got it.
Okay, so I'm going to start with curriculum instruction and professional development overview. Of course, our department is to support all the district goals.
Her mic's on. Yeah, it's on.
Green light's on, can you hear me? Put it,
Yeah, move it
how's that?
closer.
Better? Of course, our department is to support all the district goals, but we really have two main focuses going into 2021. We need to ensure that the new next-gen standards are implemented and supported throughout all the grade levels, and we want to focus on student engagement. So the budget supports providing materials and training to teachers for the New York State science standards for teachers who teach science, so that would be in K-8 and then up at the high school. And we've been working on this for the past 2 years, and then New York State expects full implementation of the next-gen standards starting in fall of 2020. One way we'll do this is through our Amplify Science program, which we've talked about in the past. We will have that implemented in K-5. Our middle school will be looking at new materials and then moving up to the high school levels. We'll be also providing materials and training to support the next-gen ELA and math standards, so we will be making sure our current resources align to those standards and that proper training, teachers continue their proper training. And we will also be supporting student engagement initiatives through our Kagan initiative. So we will have our first training actually coming up in March in Kagan, and we will continue that through next school year and probably the school year beyond that because it's not a one-time training. And Kagan is a research-based company that provides instructional strategies to ensure that all students are engaged in every classroom, pre-K through 12. Also, our professional development budget goes through to BOCES forums. We have our department chairs attend BOCES forums in all curriculum areas, and then we have teacher leaders that attend BOCES forums for math, science, social studies in our elementary grades. We also have teachers attend specific content area trainings where they go to BOCES, so that would be of a specific interest of them. Our budget supports that. We also bring in-house professional development. Kagan is an example of that. Our Amplify Science program, we bring in a trainer for that. And any new teacher would need training in our IRLA, which is our reading assessment program and instruction that we use, so new teachers need their baseline training in that. So our budget for 2021 reflects approximately a $6,000 increase, and that's for that Kagan professional development because we are bringing in the expert trainers directly from the company to do that
So
training.
Kagan's coming in on the 16th of March.
Yes,
Yep,
and
super
then-
excited about
Yep.
it. Yep,
And
and then it's possible that Mr. Lyons may speak about it, but built into next year's calendar, he also has an opportunity in March for a 9 through 12 Kagan re-up. In fact, we want
And
it.
potentially with some other grades on our other.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Mhm. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lauren for the GLP budget.
Okay, in the development of the GLP budget, we always have a focus on the district goals, which are your board goals. So as much as we try to support them all, we try to generally focus in on a couple each year. So if you look at our highlights, we have a focus on our STEAM initiative with our makerspace. So we will continue to support the fully functioning initiative of the makerspace. So our budget is really supporting how, with not only with the makerspace, the continuation of it in the classroom, so providing teachers support materials and things to implement their curriculum and provide more STEAM activities in their classroom, along with continuing to replace many of those materials you saw in the makerspace. So as much as we have the initial startup, we're going to need to replace many of those materials as the year goes on. Continuing to implement 21st century learning skills. Kagan will help a lot with that, so as long as we continue the professional development piece through the curriculum budget, it will also incur a cost of providing supplies and materials in the classroom and the resources for the teachers in their instruction. We're going to continue to embed our social emotional wellness in our classrooms. We currently do that using a program called Second Step, which is really supported with our counselor, and we have implementation of that where our students twice every other week get a lesson with a pullout, and we hope that our classroom teachers also support that. And what's really great about the Second Step, we've actually had elementary schools in Erie County come and visit to observe that. It's a fairly new curriculum, and it was one that was researched with our counselors, Mrs. Johnson, and it's working really well. We're seeing the follow-through. It has a great impact not only with the social emotional learning, but the behavior in our students and how they're just handling day-to-day issues that they might come across. So we talk about soft skills that kids have, and this program does a really great job of dealing with those things beyond academics. So we want to continue to make sure we have recognition and resources that support that and the achievements that students make that really help with the social emotional learning. Increasing the academic rigor and raising expectations for all students, so really teaming up with curriculum and doing our next-gen learning standards and making sure that the materials are current that our teachers are using. We are still implementing and using the IRLA, and it was a fairly expensive initiative from the onset, so we continue to build those resources for teachers little by little. It certainly doesn't happen overnight. And we are doing the Amplify Science, so building up those resources. We're switching from the BOCES science kits to a much more current program in science. So we're pretty excited about that. That'll be a slow initiative. And then developing a replacement plan, which we are continuing to do for GLP equipment, furniture, and technology. Mrs. Feldman and I have lots of conversations about that, of just making sure that that recycle happens on a regular basis. And you heard us talk a little bit about the Kaboom grant, and although it's a grant, the grant is never big enough to cover everything, so we have a real focused initiative next year on how we can kind of help make that room complete. It's going to be a great startup, but it won't be complete, so we have a little bit of focus on our Fit Kids in Action. So our overall budget has an increase of $750. And really, that's basically incorporating a makerspace replacement cost of $500 and a $250 increase for IRLA supplies. And some of our supplies, really, if you have not seen GLP kids walking around with medals, as silly as they may seem, they're as big as a Taekwondo belt for children. They hit certain steps when they do their reading, and we're having a huge we saw a huge gap in reading for kids and just independent reading. Kids stopped reading. There was not eyes on text, and it had a huge impact on reading achievement for students when, you know, this great increase in technology is great, but kids don't read anymore. And we are finally seeing the increase in reading again. And our students are super excited to read. They get their steps. Every time they reach 100 steps, they get an IRLA medal. And some of them wear 8 medals at a time because they're on 800 steps. And that did incur a cost. It wasn't that great in the beginning because we were happy if they met 300 steps. We have kids on 1,000 steps already. And if that means they're reading more and it's improving their reading achievement and they're reading at a higher level, then it's worth it. So that's the overall GLP budget.
Now I'll talk about the Eden Elementary budget. So Lauren and I really work well together in creating a cohesive K through 5 vision to meet goals. They look a little bit different at the primary level, as they should, and they kind of change, but we're still both meeting those goals. And to piggyback off what she just said on IRLA, so we do IRLA in this building. Our prizes are a little bit different. We give emojis because keychains, because kids are really into that, and there's different choices at each level, but we have seen a surge in reading. Obviously, we all know that's important. Kids need to be reading every day at school and at home, but it also aligns to our first goal about next-gen standards. So a big part of the next-gen standards is building lifelong readers. That was not part of the Common Core. It is part of Next Gen, and ERLA checks all those boxes in so many ways. So yes, it was a big investment at first, but it's paying off, and we need to keep building those supplies and materials for that. So Next Gen is not a buzzword, it is the new standard. So there is no more Common Core. We don't use the word Common Core. It is gone, burned, done. It is Next Gen. So that is both an ELA in math, and science isn't called Next Gen. Nationally, they're called Next Gen, but in New York State, they're called the New York State Science Standards. So those are new also. You will see one more year of the phase out of the old exams. Moving forward, everyone will have, the Regents exams will be new across the areas. Our 3 through 8 exams will look different, and they will be aligned to the Next Gen standards. They are not necessarily hugely different, but teachers from across the state and parents from across the state were involved in and had direct input on those standards. So those standards make sense. We do not need a huge overhaul of our materials, which is good news. The biggest change you will see in science. So even starting in kindergarten up through 5th grade, that Amplify Science meets those needs. The teachers will have the kits on hand, so they won't have to wait for the kits to come, and they incorporate the ELA standards, they incorporate writing, and they incorporate, most importantly, inquiry-based and using phenomena. So they are wondering and posing questions and acting like scientists right for the get-go. It's not a sit and get like it was when we were in school and memorizing vocabulary. They are acting like scientists. So our big push is in making sure we're meeting those standards. And then also our 21st century learning skills, which is communicate, collaborate, critical thinking, and creativity. When you see Kagan structures in action in a classroom, students have to do all of those things using a Kagan instruction. So they cannot sit back and just be passive learners. They have to communicate, they have to be involved in the learning, and we know that helps their learning stick. Also, in our 3 through 5 building, we use that second step curriculum, which in our building, we use a push-in model where our school counselor pushes into the classroom, and teachers and myself, we are seeing big gains from that with students using the proper vocabulary, self-advocating, and learning how to socially work things out. So we're very happy about that. Our makerspace will be launched on March 10th, which is our STEAM night. Hopefully in March, we are planning a presentation, so you can see what our makerspace is all about. Again, similar concept of a makerspace, but taking a different twist on it for our 3 through 5 students. And then also, on the last bullet point, working towards continuing purchasing of flexible seating. We have to get our music equipment, our pianos, and larger instruments on a replacement cycle, and hopefully providing some new furniture for our nurse's office, which is long overdue. So that's what the elementary is focusing on, and we have a $510 increase due to our makerspace. So. Thank you. Any questions?
No. Quick one. Laura, maybe this falls to you. So on the curriculum side, BOCES and what our governor's doing, would that roughly 25 grand fall underneath Governor Cuomo's little shell game that he's playing?
If the governor passes any increases in BOCES, we don't know how they're going to fund the aid in the future. It won't be the same. That will roll into foundation aid. So yes, the answer is yes.
So it will fall into the shell game?
Yes, it is
We
the
anticipate
biggest
that it
piece
will.
in my eyes of the shell game.
We anticipate it will.
Okay.
I want to thank you both for really trying to match up all of your initiatives to the district goals. They're apparent, they're here, they're listed this way for the board to be able to see. Makes it really easy to understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Just make sure when you talk that the mic is close.
All right.
All right, good evening. Can you guys hear me good?
We can.
All right, my name's Jeff Cervoni. I am principal of Eden Middle School. Good evening to the Board of Ed, Superintendent Anzalone, Ms. Feldman. As a guy who's been part of this middle school development for the past 2.5 years roughly, we're pretty proud of where we see the middle school, where it's at and where it's heading. I know this is a budget presentation, but a lot of our budget work, we worked pretty hard to create this middle school and to grow it, and I'm proud to say I think it's going in a great direction. So some of our instructional focus is we're seeing more and more social emotional issues with our students. So I would say we meet more as teams and we focus more on students' mental health. And I think that happens 6 through 12, and I'm K through 12 ultimately. But we have noticed at the middle level, the kids have a lot more going on in their lives other than academics. So we do spend a lot of time meeting in teams, meeting with teachers, talking in our professional learning communities about the whole child and everything that's going on with our students. So it's an important part of middle level education, and I think Eden Middle School does a nice job of it. We're excited about Kagan. I went with our team to watch the Kagan presentation, and we visit a lot of different different companies that try to sell us things, and I'll tell you, this Kagan was impressive. I really sat there for a full day and said, I think our teachers could use this, implement it, and it would have a positive impact on classroom, strategies and delivery of instruction. So I'm excited to see Kagan come in. The district really has invested well in it, and the teachers, we presented it to the middle and high school, and they're excited about it. So I look forward to seeing that come into our schools. Under the instruction piece, we have continued to bring our 8th graders up to the vocational centers to let them know some options they have as they move through Eden Middle and High School. They love that trip. They love to see the different career and technical education part that BOCES offers us. Through technology, we continue to develop and work on our makerspace. It is a 6 through 12 makerspace at the middle and high school. Steve Jones and his team have been instrumental in organizing it and developing it. We've had one training. We have a few teachers using it. Really, the tech department has been sort of, testing it out and getting it ready. We have another training we hope to get on the calendar in March so that we can roll it out and let all the teachers in the middle and high school take advantage of it. Our art department continues to roll out their technology plan. We keep using Carrie Reinhardt. We love having her on staff. She's a great asset so we can promote all the cool stuff that's happening at the middle school. So we take pictures, we send it to Carrie, who is our PR lady, and then she posts it on Facebook, Twitter, and every other social media. So we like to celebrate our students' successes through our public relations. Some of the fun stuff that's happening at the middle school, Olivia Doctor just started we do this program called Eden Reading Raiders, where every subject area on a Friday will read, not teach and just read a book. And then we took it to the next level and we created a Reading Raiders Literacy Night. And I have to give a lot of credit to Olivia Doctor. It was her idea. We worked together on it, and we just had our first reading night. We had about 30 total students. At first we thought, 30 could be a little better, but you know what? It was a great night. Parents, kids, they had a good time. We had a Caught Your Reading raffle every change of the station, so we were celebrating kids who were caught reading a book. Good time, some good feedback. Parents are looking forward to next year, and so are we. We started to let our... Pardon me?
I'm sorry. Does everybody read the same book?
No, they read whatever is at their level and what they're interested in. So yeah, it's kind of like Lauren and Kelly were saying, we're trying to get kids reading more, and it's working. So really through the scheduling, we're working on just the middle school lunch. We keep trying to separate middle and high school up the road, and that's just an ongoing process for us, but every move we make through different new initiatives, we're doing that and we're getting better at it. So as we look at our schedule for next year, we're looking at a pure middle school lunch, 6, 7, 8. Right now, we have middle and high, we separate them, we have monitors on both sides, but we're working to separate that. We've had some great youth activity nights that's in conjunction, really the town of Eden organizes them, runs them, and does most everything, but it's for our middle school students, so we've had a couple of those. Mrs. Grunder is there with me, or I'm there with her, and they've been successful.
Jeff, those are the ones that ETA partners up with, right?
Yep, ETA
Yeah, that's
is a
been
big,
amazing.
the teachers union is there and a big presence. So all in all, we're pretty excited at the middle school. I think if you looked at the numbers, you're going to see an increase in the middle school budget. And the reason for that is that as we work with Mrs. Feldman on creating these two schools and we separate money, we're trying to just figure out what should go where and how we divide things. So you will see an increase in the middle school budget, but it is caused by just us working to separate what used to be a 7 through 12 building into a 6, 8, 9, 12.
Okay.
Questions on the middle school? Thank you.
So, I'm not sure if you or Jason are going to speak about it, but I would assume in the next month or two, you're going to separate offices too. So if someone
Oh, yeah.
could make sure they talk about that tonight, that would be great.
All set?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Jason Lyons, high school principal. I'd like to thank you for affording me the opportunity for my first budget presentation. It's been a whirlwind, but the longer that I've been able to stay in the building, physically get in the trenches with my soldiers in there, as we say, the more I'm feeling grounded. And so I felt it was important. I'm getting tons of support, be it district-wide, building-wide, for helping me in this transition process. And we have a lot of subtle initiatives that we're doing in the building to, just like as Mr. Liu used to say, just tightening up screws that need to be tightened up. And we're starting to get some surprising feedback from it too. Most of the things in the instruction, especially the first three pieces, we've been behind the ball on. And the reason was I didn't come in until December 20th. So instead of making excuses, we're just coming up with a plan of action about how to take care of it now, and then we're making an annual calendar about how we're going to do it better next year. Learning, like, okay, this is 2.5 months behind, so be it. How are we going to do this now? Bring my department heads together, bring my staff together, bring my team together. How are we going to do this? But next year, how are we going to do this better? And that's what, so we're building two at once. We're handling it now, and we're figuring out. One of those is developing a much more, how do I say, elaborate elective fair to really get our kids even more excited than they were this year. And Mrs. Anzalone saw our elective fair, and that was thrown together very quickly, and they really did a fantastic job to get kids excited. We had to take some prodding because it was on the middle school side of lunch, and I had to go over and go, hey, why don't we come over there? But it still was effective because our goal is to really show the students really what Eden has to offer. Now, I can say that because I did a presentation for the high school students, and I put up all the things that Eden has that other districts don't. And they kind of looked at it like, well, I kind of figured everybody had that. And I go, no, just go up the road. They don't even have pools. You go to North Collins, they don't even have a pool. Senior lounge, things like that, that we felt it was important, especially when it comes to course offerings, the amount of courses we have from Niagara University, APs, Hilbert, is incredible, and we want to really sell it to our students to where we're busting at the seams. That's our goal. And so we're going to do it better next year. We did a great job, and I'm proud of my staff for what they did, but we're going to do it even better next year. Second, master scheduling, been working as a team. We've reached out to the different departments to find out what they need and what they want, and then obviously within the constraints of the master scheduling process, we've been trying to meet those needs. We went to a conference, Ms. Dibble, Mr. Hassett and I, and we learned a lot of creative ways to maybe maximize our staff, especially as we're transitioning from a high school staff to a middle school staff. We're going to have to make some tweaks, and we'll slowly make those tweaks, but in the ultimate goal is in the best interest of students. That is what this all is circling around. You'll hear it as we move forward, especially with the third bullet, providing expanded support for our at-risk students. High tide raises all ships. And what we want to do is those that maybe are below that 65 number, is get them the support to get them above. Those that are at 80, to get them above 85, and then to get us from 18 to number 9. Does anybody get that one? Yeah, I mean, that's how I look at it. I'm goal-oriented. My staff is working with me. We're trying to look at this collaboratively. We're reaching out to departments. How can we do this to maximize our dollars? You'll see that a little bit later with the rotating equipment cycle that I've been working with Mrs. Feldman on. So that's what we're trying to do. In addition to the Kagan rollout, I'm going to be going to Lancaster. A couple of other staff will be going with us as well. And we really want to see it in action after some training, if we can even get more staff to go out and see it. Because for like me, you can tell me 100 different times how to do it. Until I see it, I don't understand it. I'm a visual learner. Sorry to sound like a teacher again, but I am. And I think it'll be similar for our staff when they see it, as Mr. Savoni did. They'll see that the benefits from it. From technology, been working with Lucinda. We want to maximize the technology we have. PowerSchool's powerful, but it can be overwhelming. So we want to make it so strategic how it can help our students. So we're working in conjunction with the tech department to utilize PowerSchool to track students that are at risk of failure. It's called RTI. There's actually ways in there of all the things that we're doing to assist students, and then when teachers go on it, they can see what all the other teachers are doing. Because if we're doing the same strategy to assist a student, it's not working if they're not improving. So then we need to take another course of action, and if that means come up with a plan of action for that child, that's what we want to do. We want to be strategic to help students succeed and excel. We had the New York State testing in-house. The other thing that was added a little bit later is we're going to have students register for classes earlier through PowerSchool. We already had the service, which we didn't know, you did, and we'll be able to get the numbers earlier, so then we can get the students in the courses that will challenge them and have more rigor in their course offerings. Public relations, I have to talk about the second one the most. I stand out there with a little electric flag. Does anybody know what I'm talking about with traffic? I cannot believe how many people are coming up to me, to Officer Bishop, to Officer Bergstall, Mrs. Crinan, because we're able to allow parents to drop off their kids earlier, but the unintended consequences is I get to connect with the community. It has been awesome. And parents are able to get them in, and we've actually seen our tardies go down.
So I just want to say, as
You
someone,
can make fun of me. It's
I'm not
okay.
making fun of you. I absolutely love morning drop-off now. It was my biggest pet peeve.
Okay.
In the morning, and Jeff will just, I would call him, I'm like, there is a car sitting here, it's not moving, I can't get around
Just a
it.
little.
So I thank you. My daughter's like, you're not so grumpy in the morning. I'm like, because I just zip in and zip out. So I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. But it was an unintended consequence, or unintended outcome, because I was starting to get approached at basketball games of like, thank you for doing that. And I'm like, okay, we just want to get kids in earlier, but they seem to be happy about the public. So that was nice. The one thing that I'm really proud about is I've been working with the department heads in the building about a rotating and replacement equipment cycle. And I forget which of the board members is that we don't want to wait till everything goes bad. The last board meeting, you brought that about facilities, not waiting until they all go bad. It's the same with equipment. We can't be waiting. So Mr. Savoni and I have built a 5-year rotating cycle, middle school and high school, even though it's a separate budget. We're working in unison so that we can provide equipment or some sort of, I know DES was brought up, strategically to benefit students and maximize our dollars. I'm a fiscal conservative. I pinch every penny, and we're already working with tech, art, the facts to maximize it, but we're spreading it over 5 years, so we then know what we're going to need down the road. And Mrs. Feldman has been very helpful in this process as well, so I want to give her credit for that. And the funny thing is my budget went down 23%. I bet you would love to hear that all the time. Well, that's actually not 100% accurate. That's because of the breakup of the budgets. That's why Mr. Cervoni's went up. So you can shift all your complaints to him. But wanted to point that out. Another thing that I'm extremely proud of is we created this coffee club with, it isn't just the department heads in my building, it's anyone that really wants to come and just talk about issues in the building. But in the very first meeting, I said, this is not going to be a B session. This is going to be, I want you to come with solutions. We are here to make it better. Don't just come to complain, come with solutions. And we've already come up with 4 or 5 different solutions, whether it's about dropping from APs to students in the halls, the value of homeroom. We may not always come to consensus right away, and if we don't feel we're going the same direction, but it's an open dialogue. And I got a lot of positive feedback from staff about that. Again, working with Lucinda, we want to maximize our dollars on PowerSchool. We pay a lot of money for it. Let's use that power to benefit us tracking students to help them be successful. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a question.
Sure.
It was an issue before you came on board with the problem that some of the honors classes became less than honors classes. So are you going to address it so there'll be, real honors classes where there weren't?
I'm glad that you brought that up because that happened with science, and I don't know if Mr. Savoy, we want to make sure that the course description meets the rigor of what the class is going to be for that purpose. Whatever the standards are, and I forget the one science class, because they had 2 sections, but then it felt they were saying that perhaps the rigor wasn't where it was supposed to be. So the class border, we have to make it more descriptive so that it can stay at that rigor and challenge those students. Now that is, I believe, an AP class, so there is a tremendous amount of demands for that. So we're trying to work systematically with the departments though, because obviously they're the experts in that field, but absolutely. I want to expand on honors. That could be AP, New Step, they have different terminology as we get higher. So absolutely. And we also want to open up some opportunities, especially with community colleges. I know that's one of the departments works with ECC because that's a wider net than an AP. And the wider net we can get and the more success of students, again, it all comes back to success of students.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other? All right.
The new office.
Oh, the new office. Holy smell. Oh, it's awesome. I don't know if you get a chance to
How
come
many
up.
people get hired and get to design their own office, right? And then watch it get built. Right?
I'm sorry, I'm flustered because it's so awesome. Please come up. It's a little bit of a mess, but don't worry. Dan will walk you around. You won't get hurt. It's really incredible. The guys are doing a fantastic job. The work, I believe, is all being done in-house. Is that accurate? And that's Don and that's Dan. And I cannot speak about them.
Yep, so our own maintenance guys are putting up the walls, and then Lucinda's crew is going to come up and do the tack. So it's all in-house, because Laura's a fiscal conservative, too.
But they're doing, I really got to commend them. They're doing a wonderful job, much faster than even I expected. Please come up, take a look at it.
So just to remind everybody, the new high school main office was the faculty room, and the faculty room where it is now was Sean's office, and Sean's office is where Lauren's office was, and Lauren's office is where one of the kindergarten rooms was. So it's been a good transition over time, and it keeps the high school and the middle school offices directly across from each other, allows the teachers to keep their mailboxes where they were and not have to walk down the hall. It's good. It's going to be a good move. Yeah, I'm excited for you.
It's super exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to say that our buildings and ground staff and our IT technology staff are aces, and they're doing an excellent job of working with the time constraints they have to save us money by doing this work that they are the best in the industry to do for us. So thank you to them.
Yes, thank you. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Nice job, Jake.
Thank you.
So that's set. Now, request to withdraw specific items from consent agenda. Oh.
Second?
She just lost her screen.
I don't have a screen. I mean, I physically have a screen, but there's nothing on it.
It says her meeting should start in 3 seconds.
I'll just look on with Sandy. I can look on with Sandy. Forget it. Okay, keep going.
All right. Okay, so now. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, consensus items C through R be approved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
Okay, all the way through R. Public comment.
Lucinda, could you catch us up to the public comment?
Okay, thank you.
Colleen Gaglione, PTA. Just a quick PTA note, we're having our...
Colleen, hold on, just hold on
Oh,
one
I
second.
just have to say the fancy stuff, Colleen. Hang on a second. Give me my chance. Okay, approximate position and time that the board has designated to receive statements from individuals and groups. The board will review all statements, then respond appropriately at a future meeting. All persons in attendance are required to sign the attendance sheet and designate their representation status, for example, parent, teacher, bus driver, chamber of commerce, etc. There is a 2-minute time limit. You're on.
That was wonderful, Mrs. Kindly. Just a PTA note, we're in the middle of our Niagara chocolate candy sale. So if you are thinking of getting your children or grandchildren candy, the PTA benefits greatly from this. We make upwards of $12,000 to $14,000 that the 100% goes back to the school. So if you're thinking about it, you can see any of the school offices and you can order it and we could probably deliver it if Mrs. Grunder wants to help. And just a side note, the curtains at the auditorium curtains at the high school and middle school look amazing. So thank you for getting that done. And just to lead into our high school musical is going to be the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And Mrs. Ansel can attest that the sets are amazing. And the kids are doing a great job with the tap dancing and learning about the 1930s. There was a little resistance with some of the clothing because they were like, what? But they really have embraced it, and I feel like it's a learning experience for them, and I think if you come, you'll really enjoy it. So you can get...
The dedication of everyone involved in that musical, the dads who are building the sets, is just mind-boggling to me, that they spend their entire weekend, every weekend, building these sets.
Yeah,
right?
it's amazing.
Yeah, but the
Mr.
curtains do look
Test,
great,
yeah,
too, I
it's
agree.
amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, the kids are great. It's just such a collaborative effort, so we hope to see you there.
Got my tickets already, so see you there.
Oh, good, yeah, we're in the money, right?
Marlene, can we get some candy for our executive sessions?
As long as you're buying, Don, right?
We'll take it out of the
from the
sunshine
budget.
fund or whatever we got going.
There you go. She's got the order sheet.
Check your kids' backpacks, probably in there.
Yeah, they don't
Anybody
have
else?
backpacks anymore.
Anybody else with public session?
Good evening. My name is Maureen Zabran. I'm here representing my son Matthew Zabran. I, on February 4th, mailed a packet of information to each of the school board members, and I'm asking for help in trying to resolve these issues over Matthew's work hours. Mrs. Anzalone's office did call me this afternoon to say that she was willing to redo 4 of these years, but that she was still going to base it on this 200 hours, and Matthew finds this unacceptable. So I'm just looking for some help from the board as far as how we can resolve this issue.
I guess, for me, confused as to why there's any discrepancy with the 200 hours. That's 200 days. That's what a
200 days.
That's what a school year is based on.
Okay. All the schools, Matthew worked for 6 other school districts and Genesee Community College. Okay. All the school districts base their hours or their days on the school calendar. So if the school calendar was 189 days that year, that's how you figure the average hours a week that he worked. Okay. This is how she figured them in the past until this last time, and now she's changed it to the 200 hours.
So,
Mrs. Anzalone's figures and ours, if you understood all that information I tried to convey. Okay, when she first looked at this, and she had a subbing list printed, and she used that particular subbing list. Okay, and Matthew, right from the beginning, said, no, I work more days than that, and we went back and forth. Okay, the second subbing list that we had that the school principal had printed for Matthew, the ASAP subbing report, jives with Matthew's pay stubs. Okay, which in 99% of the data is it increases his days. Sometimes it's only a couple days a year. One day I think it was 12 days a year. Then there was the huge issue about all the sporting and how those hours were figured. And in the data that I gave you, Matthew scorebooks and everything indicated that he coached, let's say, 18 games.
Okay, we're not going to sit here and hash out every detail right now, but
Right.
I will say this. I can't speak to what those other school districts do, but I can say that the New York State Teachers Retirement System looks at 200 days and 40 weeks as a school year. That's how they calculate full-time employment.
He's not looking to be full-time employment.
But that's how they calculate employment, based on 200 days and a 40-week school year. So I don't see the discrepancy when that's what the New York State Teachers Retirement System does. So I can't speak to what the other school districts do. I don't work for the other school districts. But based on the New York State Teachers Retirement System, it's a 200-day, 40-week school year. And that's how we do it. I don't know what else to say at this point.
Well, starting back in 213, when we started doing these forms, it wasn't based on that. That's not the figures Mrs.
So,
Anzalone
Mrs. Abraham, let me just make a statement. When I came in 2013, that is how I calculated as well. When we recalculated it, we went through our business office and everybody who does work at Eden. New York State allows each school district to do it differently. In 2013, when I created your forms, as I've told you in recent letters, I didn't know that either. I should have done my homework. When you brought the forms back to us with other discrepancies, when I took it to the other clerical, they said to me, we base it at Eden on 200. The offices that we have called allow all school districts to calculate their hours the way they calculate them. Eden calculates it on 200. I can't do your sons differently than they do every other teacher in Eden. So we put it in the mail today. We have addressed what you've asked us to, but the 200 is the way that Eden calculates it, and we won't recalculate that. And I agree, this is not the right forum.
I have no other, you refuse to meet with me, I have no other choice. I've got to sit down and discuss this with somebody and come to some resolution on it.
I just don't think that discussing it over and over is going to get you the resolution that you want, because you're asking us to make an exception for your son that we don't do for any other employee in this district.
I'm not asking for any kind of exception. I'm asking for accurate facts. If the school day is 189 days.
Why don't you take a look at what Mrs. Anzalone sent you, and then we'll try to go from there, but we can't keep belaboring this point. Your 2 minutes has been long.
Okay, I appreciate it.
And then you can, please send me an email response, no more items to my personal home.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else? All right, new business. Resignations. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the resignation of library media specialist Christopher Duff be accepted effective February 21st, 2020. The board and administration wish to thank Mr. Duff for his service to the district.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Lauren's shaking her head no down there.
No, he's a loss, isn't he? Yeah, yeah.
She's not doing well.
So the conversation I would tell you is that we had two candidates that applied. We did open it up as a 1.0 position, knowing that if we opened it up as a part-time, that would only be through June. And so I also want to thank, you're getting lots of things tonight, Mrs. Feldman, but I want to thank Mrs. Feldman for making that a 1.0 so that whoever it is that we did interview recognized that they had a position that lasted more than 4 months. We have 2 candidates. One does not have her exams back. One is certified. But I want to tell you that we have now officially seen what people have been talking about shortage, and it's starting right there in the Library Media Center. The likes of Mr. Duff in the Library Media Center will take a long time to replace. There's no doubt. But just so you all know, he's now going to be working 10 minutes from his home, and that was what pulled him away.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Very sorry.
Thank you. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the resignation for the purpose of retirement of elementary teacher Judy Maynard be accepted effective July 1st, 2020. The board and administration wish to thank Mrs. Maynard for her 27 years of service to the district.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, this is another one. So Mrs. Maynard in science, and I can still hear her voice. She caught everybody by surprise. She didn't tell anyone even at lunch that day, and it came in at the end of the day, and it was by the time I got down the stairs to tell her I'd send it out as an email, there were probably 14 people around her. So she'll also be a big loss to us, many, many years with us.
But she was the one that I said to her, I won't believe it till I see it right here, because
Yeah,
she
well,
was
it's
always,
here.
I
Yeah.
don't think I will, I don't, I thought
It was a
Judy would
big
be carried out,
surprise.
but, yeah. Yeah, really, but.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the resignation for the purpose of retirement of GLP teacher Carol Stumpf be accepted effective July 1st, 2020. The board and administration wish to thank Mrs. Stumpf for her 30 years of service to the district.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yep, put her right in the same category,
Yep.
too. Just an amazing, amazing kindergarten teacher. This is kindergarten teacher number 2. We're not done yet, but she will also be just an incredible loss to GLP and our students and parents.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the resignation for the purpose of retirement of Spanish teacher Raymond Neal be accepted effective July 1st, 2020. The board and administration wish to thank Mr. Neal for his 31 years of service to the district.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh, yeah, well, just look at Mr. Lyons' face. He's only been here, 4 weeks, and you already know what a loss this is. This is Maestro. This is all of our concerts, our musical, our pit. His class is dynamic. He's just an amazing person as well. So just an incredible loss. I want to go forward and say that the last time that we had a loss in Spanish was when Mrs. Cole went to Cheektowaga, and we had just a heck of a time, didn't we, Jeff, trying to replace Spanish. This one will be a full replacement with Mrs. Cole, who is on a Pell because her position was reduced from a 1.0 well back in 2013. And so we will be looking to replace that position and still trying to figure out how we're going to do that and pull the right people in.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the resignation for the purpose of retirement of GLP teacher Joan Brechtel be accepted effective July 1st, 2020. The board and administration wish to thank Mrs. Brechtel for her 21 years of service to the district.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yep, it's kindergarten teacher number 3. So what you will start to see here in the next month is some opportunities for teachers to transfer. And this is a domino effect as these openings start to occur. So don't be surprised to hear and see that people who may have been in different grade levels are now requesting to transfer. Takes us a couple of months to get through all that, but Mrs. Brechtel also will be a loss. She is a teacher who a couple of years back decided she was going to grab it all just like you did, Mrs. Kindly, and jump in with all the new stuff that was happening, and she's done that. So I applaud her. That's not easy to do.
I'd also like to add that my youngest graduated from Cortland, but she came back to Eden to do her student teaching at GLP and had Mrs. Brechtel, and absolutely learned so much from her and cherished that, and I think is going to be subbing for her at some point. And Mrs. Carter, too, I'd like to thank you for taking Sabrina under your wing and teaching her a lot. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the resignation for the purpose of retirement of school psychologist Joseph Weiss be accepted effective July 1st, 2020. The board and administration wish to thank Mr. Weiss for his 22 years of service to the district.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yep, this is one more, and if Sean weren't retiring, she'd be sitting there shaking her head as well. He is just an amazing support for Eden, will be an incredible loss for us. He's gentle, he's calm, he's goal-oriented, he gets things done, and he always has a smile on his face, no matter how we make him travel. So again, I think that this year we've now totaling 14 retirements between all support staff and teachers and administrators.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
Okay, we don't need appointment guidelines, do we? We can just go on to the first for Feasley. Yeah, I'm not going to. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Alexander Feasley, who was initially certified in social studies 7 through 12, be appointed as a home instructor at $28 per hour and as a part-time social studies teacher effective January 14th, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2020. Salary is based upon ETA contract masters, step 1.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yep, so if you go back to what Mr. Lyons and Mr. Cervoni was talking about, which is this push to help some of our more at-risk kids, this is what Alex Feasley has been doing for us. We're certainly excited to get his certification done, so thank you, Barb, for expediting that through BOCES, because SED is not the quickest when it comes to that, and we're looking forward to him helping out in the social studies department to keep some of our numbers within a reasonable class size that we really like.
And he's a student.
He was a student here when we interviewed him, and I interviewed him in the final interview.
He was, yeah. Yeah, he was a student here.
Yes. He said that he only wanted Eden, and this is where he wanted to be.
Cool.
Mhm.
Good Eden boy.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Megan Piccirillo be appointed on probation as a senior clerk typist effective February 10th, 2020 and ending August 9th, 2020. Salary is based upon CSEA contract level 6, step 1.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yep, this is that domino effect again. So, nod your head negative if I'm wrong here, Lauren, but this is the domino of Sue Wozniak going to the high school, Brenda going to special ed, and Lauren hiring a new person. This is Megan, and she just started a couple of days ago. I want to put a huge thank you out to Patty Hartman for coming in. And for you, I think that this was a long search. This is another area where we are competitive with civil service, working with a very antiquated system. It took us a long time, but I think Megan's going to be a real nice addition for you. How many days has she been there now?
3.
3,
Oh, boy.
so she's on day 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Beverly Susana be appointed on probation as a bus attendant effective February 13th, 2020, and ending August 12th, 2020. Salary is based upon CSEA contract level 4, step 1.
Any discussion?
Yeah, this is an interesting schedule because when you're a bus attendant, you basically work from 6:30 to 7:30, and then you come back and you work from 1:30 to 3 or 3:30. So up in the consent agenda items under substitute, you would have seen her name up there as well. And it's very possible that we may see her substituting throughout the district during the day, which is something she's interested in. And then for you, out in the community, she's also signed up, not as a part of the school, but she's also going to be a census taker, so you'll probably see her name out and about.
Anything else? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Susan Giannotis be appointed as a fitness center employee effective February 13th, 2020, at a rate of $11.80 per hour.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation, that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, after successfully completing her probationary period, Heidi Mahoney be permanently appointed as a bus driver effective March 4th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, after successfully completing her probationary period, Deborah Gregor be permanently appointed as a bus driver effective March 4th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Stefania Cooper be appointed as head nurse effective February 13th, 2020 through June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Sean and I are super excited about this. Sean's nodding her head, which I'm really great. And sitting next to Sean is Mary Maxon, your new director of PPS, who will start March 2nd. So welcome, Mary. We're super excited about this position because I do think it'll help in the transition with Mary Maxon coming in, but also it's something that would have helped Sean, I think, over the time period as well, to stop with some of those routine, everyday morning things and be able to focus on some of the bigger level district things. So we're hoping that what Stefania will do is to help align all the nurses across the district into the same protocols, doing things the same way, help to create that schedule when we have to have nurses on a bus and somebody might be absent or out, help with the immunizations so that Lauren herself is not running from building to building, attempting to try to create some type of protocols, and Stefania's the right person to do it.
Anything else? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the 2019-2020 school calendar be amended to add a staff development day, March 2nd, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so just a reminder, the only people who won't be in school that day will be the students. It's a Monday. Everyone else who works for the district, who would normally be here on a Monday, is expected to be here. We will be going over the Univera plan, and there may be some other staff development that's scheduled throughout the day.
So
we will have 3 snow days left after this one, since we had one last Friday. And I was going to, but it's too late now. I appreciate all the confidence that our parents in Eden have in thinking that I can predict a snow day 2 days ahead of time, or even 24 hours ahead of time. I can't do it, not in Western New York. And so at least 4 people asked me today if we were going to have a snow day tomorrow or Friday. I wish I knew, because then I would go to bed at a normal time. I have no idea, and neither does John Paul. He said that right in his article. He doesn't know either. I appreciate the fact that we still do have 3 snow days left, because the lake is not frozen. So we'll see.
My colleagues at BOCES have a snow day calculator app, and they've been texting me that it's a 68% chance tomorrow there'll be a snow day.
This is all day. All day, Cheryl, okay?
Cheryl,
so to be clear, there's 2 Mondays in Eden.
Cheryl,
the
you're
second,
getting up
or
early.
Mondays in March. There's no school for kids. No, the 2nd and the 16th, or no?
Oh, no, she's right. So I don't know if it's the 16th. I guess it would work out that way.
Put it in my calendar so I remember to keep my kids home.
There might be other stuff in March too, you never know. So you're right, March 2nd is Staff Development Day, no students, and March 16th is also Staff Development for our Kagan introduction, no students. And I don't know, I got last Friday named after me by a student because it was a snow day, so you don't know, Cheryl. Never know.
Is there any good emails in your inbox?
Yes,
from
I
the
got a
students
wonderful
today?
one from Caroline Coleman, who offered to name it Mrs. Anselon Day if it was a snow day. I'll tell her to name the next one after you.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
Business report.
I thought I'd let you have a break, and we'll move forward to the superintendent.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, superintendent's report.
Just a few. Just want to welcome Karen Howard again. I think it's the second time this year you've been with us. Karen comes to us this year from Senator Gallivan's office. She also joined us in the community forum, and it's always wonderful to have you here.
And this Senator's office wants to thank you for participating in the blanket drive.
Oh, yes. So that's my next one. So Mitch Martin picked up the blankets last week. He inadvertently took Mark Stevens' ID tag with him, but other than that, so blanket drive for Oishei Children's Hospital, we had 77 blankets from GLP, 40 from the high school, 35 from the middle school, 31 from the elementary school, 14 from district offices and transportation for a total of 197. And like every single year, there were also stuffed animals in there too. Yeah. It's a wonderful event. We really do enjoy it.
It's a wonderful event, and thank you very much for participating.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. Also, we want to apologize to our students and to our parents. There was a glitch in our honor roll reporting to the media. Fourth grade in December, which we didn't really figure out, and then middle school this past reporting period. Lucinda's isolated this to a Power School reporting issue, possibly due to an upgrade that we recently did in Power School. BOCES is fixing it now, and Jeff, I think you're going to resubmit to the paper, am I right? Yeah. And Mrs. Horschel, that did affect your daughter too, who is high honor roll, not honor roll. So just want to let you know. It's always you, but it always, if there's a report, for some reason, poor Georgia gets it. So we want to apologize to all of our students in Georgia too, but we'll get that resubmitted.
All right, you're up. Student report.
Hi, I'm Savannah Battleson. I'm the
hi,
secretary for Executive Council. It's slower than it usually is for students around this time of year, but the musical, now the Pit is rehearsing with the cast, so it's always great to see the costumes and everything. So the tap dancing is, I'm a violin player.
In the Pit.
Yes. The 10th grade Student Council Club is doing their carnation sale for Valentine's Day. The UB Genetics Club is starting up soon. We had our first meeting last Tuesday. We have a group of seniors that are trying to create a environmental club. So Carrie Hamlet said that she would be our advisor, so we're currently trying to work that out. Tonight's the varsity girls basketball senior night, and Brooke Woodard recently broke a top scorer record. I think she had like 1,048 points.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mr. Iwanko had a ball with her name on it made, which I thought was pretty awesome.
And she was Jenna Phillips, an outstanding former athlete that went on to Geneseo to play basketball. So that was a pretty impressive record to break.
Tyler Gemza is performing in that. I'm not sure what it is.
For swimming, boys
swimming, boys swimming. And there was one other thing, and now I can't remember it.
Good job.
Good job.
So the question is, what are you going to do with your carnations if there's a snow day on Friday? Because there's a 63% chance, apparently. Oh, tomorrow.
No, tomorrow.
Not Valentine's Day.
There's not going to be a snow day.
Oh, gosh, okay.
Sorry.
Savannah, thank you.
You guys have all next week off. You don't need a snow day right now. That's it.
In 2016, there was a snow day tacked on to February break. It came up on my memory feed on my Facebook today.
Oh, it's never nice to have snow day for Valentine's Day.
Are we good?
Savannah, you good? Yeah.
All right. So now, board report roundtable. Anybody?
Well, I think since the last meeting, I had the opportunity to attend 2 Erie County Association of School Board functions. One was a legislative breakfast, and I sat with Mitch, and we listened to all the depressing news coming out of Albany and State Ed about funding and the compression of the lines into foundation aid, but there were some good topics that came up for discussion, one of which, and for our special ed friends out in the office, the one trend the Erie County Association of School Boards, two trends actually, spoke of was the increase in special ed numbers across all districts. And also in their second item, they talked about the increase in mental health needs across all districts. And then they kept moving on. And I spoke publicly and said, in my personal opinion, as a speech language pathologist and someone who's been in a public school for a long time, that I don't think it's a coincidence that special ed numbers are rising alongside mental health issues, because it's the special ed department that usually takes over a lot of the services for those students who are exhibiting mental health issues. So I said, if you invest in one, you're going to kill two birds with one stone, for lack of a better term. So hopefully that was helpful for the powers that be who are sitting there. You know, everybody pretty much had the same issues with foundation aid formula and the lack of transparency in it, issues with how poverty is calculated. It seems like the same message for a lot of Western New York districts. And so I don't know if it's reassuring or not that we're in the same boat with a lot of other people, but we are. And then we also went to, Sandy, Laura, and I, to the dessert forum, which the desserts were fabulous, just by the by. Oh my gosh. Where Dr. Timms presented on more depressing news. But he does a great job explaining the issues with the foundation aid formula and just the issues with how everything is calculated, and really the out-and-out bias that's there, and how downstate really is favored. When the formulas are made, it benefits them first, and then we just kind of get the table scraps of what's left over, which is great. It's awesome. So they talked just a lot about advocacy and what we can do and how we can get our message across, and so we'll just keep pushing forward.
So you realize the desserts are so you're not totally depressed when you walk out.
Drowning your sorrows in chocolate and coffee.
The sugar high.
So, a couple things I've got. Spring sports, our new athletic director, Mr. Owanko, has scheduled a mandatory parent/coaches meeting for February 27th. This is something that Mr. Owanko brought up in his interview, and he was going to basically start it in the fall, and I held his feet to the fire, and he's starting it now, so.
Good for him.
Do you know the time on that?
I believe it's going to be 6 o'clock. 27th of February, Thursday. Something that just came up to me on a voicemail, and Lucinda, we might want to look into this. Robocalls, do they go through the entire Eden community? Because I'm getting complaints that people are getting robocalls and they don't have kids in their school district.
So I can answer that for you.
Okay.
We don't make up the phone numbers. And so if in fact someone at some point has included them as a contact, then they're going to get a phone call. And so we have 3 categories: in-school emergency, so someone has put their numbers down because the emergency is occurring while our kids are in school; out-of-school emergency, which is where I put my school closings for the most part because it's not during school hours; or just general. General, you pretty much have to sign up for it. That's why you hear all the time, I didn't get that email. Well, if you didn't sign up for it, you're not going to get it. But my suggestion would be is if you're getting calls from people, or if you're getting emails that they're getting a call and they shouldn't be, they need to let us know. Because there's no way for us to take them off if we don't know that that's what's happening.
I will advise the person.
Yeah, thank you. They're welcome to call me directly, too. Or I wouldn't.
I was going to say, we get these all the time, and you're correct. Just contact our office. We can actually search School Messenger and see what parent has put them down as their second or third contact. That's usually what's happened. It's a babysitter or somebody that's allowed to pick them up from school, and they've put them on the all-call list, and we can quickly find
Or it's no
that.
longer a babysitter, and they
Right.
never took them
And
off.
they never took them off, correct.
Got it. All right, last thing I wanted to bring up is the school board has a 3-year term on it. And just wanted to throw this out there. What about if we move to a 4-year term and not a 3-year term? You're probably all looking at me.
But this is not happening right now. Just wait a minute.
It's effective immediately. Donna, are you suggesting all become 4, or some are 3 and some are 4?
I think some need to be 3, some need to be 4, but it's just something that, you know, as this being my 4th year, my 2nd term, you really start to hit your stride in year 2 and year 3, and then you're coming off the school board. So it's just something to, you know, to start looking at maybe in regards to policy as we move forward into the future. You know, doesn't make sense to have some 4-year board members on the Board of Education, so.
No, I think it's a good point, because I think other districts do much longer terms. I mean, they vary anywhere between 3 and 5, 6 years. I do think you're right, for your first term, you're just getting your feet wet, and then you're like, oh, it's over with. Do I run again? What do I do? I think it's something we should think about, some sort of combination, maybe 4 years for your first term. If you run again, then 3. I don't know what the answer is there, but I think extending it, I think, would help people.
Like, I know my first term of 3 years is ending in June, and, you know, the first year I was just kind of like, second year I was speaking a little bit more, and then this year I've learned so much more, where it's all making much more sense. But yeah, do you run or do you run? I'm not really sure which one, but I would actually, don't fall over, be in favor of the 4-year.
Barbara, I have a question for you as the district clerk. So since the petitions are out, do the petitions state the term length? If the board chose to do their changes and modify a policy now, could it still take effect for the new people who may get elected?
Only one person picked up a petition so far, but I need to check the law book, because I think it might be in the law book that it has to be 3 years. I have
So
to
we have a
look.
policy that says 3. So yeah, other districts have 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year, but thank you for checking the law book. I appreciate that a lot. And the second question I would have is, if in fact the board chooses to amend their board policy to change their terms, can they do it now so that it takes effect for any new member that might be coming on
For
in the
new
2020?
members.
That's right, 2021. Or
Right.
Ellen or Cheryl. Yeah, kidding.
I guess we could retro it. No, I don't know if you can retro it, though, really.
Poor Ellen.
Because they were voted on for 3 years, so.
So what do you want to do? So what do you want to do with that? Do you want to bring it back up February 25th? Have Barb bring you information, send it? What would you like as an action plan?
Sure. Have her bring it back on,
25th.
have her bring it back on the 25th.
Barb, good?
Yep.
Anybody else?
I was at the, 2 things, the girls' the big game where they beat Holland, and it was an amazing game, but a cute little story. And the reason I go is because my niece, Sabrina, is a volunteer assistant coach with Joe Doherty, so now that I don't have children, so now that my nieces and nephews are out of high school and college, I go watch them coach. But Mr. Lyons had kind of told, there was a crowd of a student body group there and stuff, and they were really supportive and cheering. And, you know, everybody gets rowdy when the other team's going to make free throws and stuff, but the kids were doing really well, keeping it, you know, keeping it clean and stuff. But Mr. Lyons had spoke to them and said, you know, keep it respectful. And so there was a really bad call, and the kids pointed it out to the refs, and then they said, but we mean it respectfully.
Cute. Cute.
That's right.
They listened.
They did listen.
Okay. I think we're done. It's executive session. Future date. Oh, sorry. I was skipping that. The next regular Board of Education meeting is Wednesday, March 18th, 2020 at 7 PM in the Eden Elementary School cafeteria. See public content area for additional meeting dates. Budget meeting is coming up February 25th, 2020. Budget meeting, budget report, Wednesday, March 4th, 2020 at 7 PM. Community forum, full budget, Wednesday, March 18th, 2020, 6:15 PM. Now, make a motion for executive session to enter, okay. We don't need all that, do we? That's just the guidelines. Can we go into the next one?
Lucinda, can
B?
you click on B?
Thank you. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education enter executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person or persons.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Thank you for
everyone.
coming.